Hey guys, so I've been a therapist for a long time, but it seems like right now in the travel world, a lot of people don't realize that there is an actual way for you to calculate what your contracts should be, what they should run, what you are worth as a therapist at a facility, even within certain regions. Okay? Let's go. Hey, here we are. I am just going to open a PDF that I made. Part of this was made on my phone, so yeah, little sketchy. I didn't clean it up because I really wanted to get it to you. So first of all, we're going to start with the cost. What a full-time employee, FTE, costs a facility. So there's actually a way to determine that. That comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is not a bunch of hoopla that I'm about to give you. These are actual numbers from actual government sites and that sort of thing that determines different things about our contracts. So one of the things that the Bureau of Labor Statistics says is that the average employee, full-time employee, will cost between 1.25 up to 2 times that person's salary. So what that means is if a person makes $10 an hour, half of that is 5. You add that to the base, that's 15. So that employee at 1.5 times their pay costs the company $15 an hour. Okay? So we can use that to determine what a full-time employee would cost the facility if they had one. And the thing is that you have to remember is that if they hired a full-time employee, number one, they wouldn't need you. But number two, I am going to tell you that not only would it cost them 1.5 times that base pay, it would also cost them even more because that employee is going to be there even when they don't need them. We are not. We are travelers. We are contracted for a certain amount of time and then we go away. So you don't have us there when you don't need us there, but we're there when you need us. And we get there quickly and we get minimal orientation. I've had as little as 2 hours. 2 hours of orientation and expected to float after that. Figure it out, call somebody, couldn't even get into stuff, had to get people to help me get into stuff, still got my day done. Why? Because that's what I'm paid to do. Now, that's a whole nother conversation in itself. So we're going to focus on pay. Right now, the employer pays out of their pocket. This is going to include benefits for their employees. If they do overtime, anything that's going to cost that company more, supplies, training, all these things, keeping up with their paperwork, all that stuff costs them money, okay, per employee hour worked. So 1.25 to 2, I rounded it to 1.5 just for the sake of my calculations. I'm not going to research every area. Now this PDF is long. I inserted the whole PDF. I will have the links underneath the video if you want them. You can click on them and see all of this yourself. There is one in particular you will need to do your own calculations. We'll get to that. So I get through this. Okay, so there's the website for that one. I will put it below, I promise. Just an average. It can be up to 2 times as much. So what you're going to do is, if possible, you know, as travelers, if you travel a lot, you end up with this network of people that you know and that you can ask questions like, hey, what does a full-timer make in Denver, Colorado? How many years experience do they have? So if you can get that information, you can make this even more specific. All right? So I don't really do that for every area. I probably should. I really focus on my stipend being correct, because a lot of times it's not, and a lot of times they take a lot out of your stipend. So I just base it on, if I were in Florida and I was working in an area where I used to work, then it would be okay. So right now, this is going to be based off of, I told you I had a lot of years of experience. I have more than 25 plus years of experience, and it's going to be based on raises that I know that have been received since the beginning of COVID. Okay? So this is based on someone with 25 plus years experience and with the raises post-COVID. I know travel isn't always based on years of experience. I realize that. It's not what I'm saying. I am trying to show you how travel should be paid out if it's paid out properly and in accordance with what they would pay you as a full-time employee. Okay, so if I have 25 years, it's one of the reasons I did not travel before COVID, because when I did this math before COVID, no job made any sense to take. I made more as a full-time employee because I had so many years experience. True story. All right, so you need to understand your worth, and you need to understand how to explain it. Agencies, if your agency can't see your worth, they can't sell your worth. If they can't sell your worth, then why are you with them? There's plenty to choose from now. They came out of the woodwork when COVID hit. They're everywhere. Thought about becoming a recruiter myself, because I know what you're worth, and I know I could stand up for you. But if your agency knows your worth and they're still not giving you your deserved share, should you even be with that agency? Because basically that means they know your worth, they're getting it from the hospital, but you're not seeing any of it. I've had this happen. I had an insider who actually told me what the agency was being paid for myself. That's completely not supposed to be done ever. But I did find out. There's a lot of talking going on about salaries during this pandemic, and the person was extremely frustrated because they kept lowering my pay. And this is before I even signed a contract. And once they got to one point, I said, I'm not going any lower. Just not going to do it. And I let the person know I won't be coming because they keep lowering my contract. They were livid. Okay? They shared with me what they were being paid. I went back to the agency and I told them I wanted the original offer and not a dime less. I didn't care how they had to figure it out. Never will go back to that agency. That agency name is Health Carousel. Health Carousel. And yes, I am saying their name because if they'll do that to me, they'll do that to you. Do not let them jerk you around like that. It is so wrong. They know what you're worth. Trust me. This is their income as well. They have people doing the numbers. You need to learn to do these numbers. When you're a traveler, this is your business. You are your business. So you need to understand your bottom line. 1.5 times a full-time employee hourly pay will give you the total cost of a full-time employee to this said company. Okay? So, again, this example is based on an employee with 25 plus years. You can do these calculations for any rate of pay. So my rate of pay is going to be $40 an hour. That is base. It's not night shift differential. I do look for higher pay if they're asking for a night shifter. I do. So 1.5 times 40 is $60 an hour. $60 an hour is what it costs that company for a full-time employee. Just base. So 60 times 36 hours, because we are not doing overtime in this. I will touch on it here and there with things I say, but other than that, I'm not doing calculations with overtime. $60 an hour for 36 hours, $21.60. That's what it would cost them. That's what they would pay out weekly for a full-time employee. Now, mind you, that's benefits, that's their retirement, that's everything. That's what they're paying out, okay? So this is where your travel stipend numbers come from. A lot of people ask this, a lot of people don't know. There's an actual website where you can go. It is determined by the government. That's because that's what they say you can deduct, or you know, that is what can be tax-free in said area for X amount of whatever time your contract is for. This is what you're going to need for that area. So you can go to this website. They will tell you, you put in the place. For here, I used Orlando. So this is going to be Orlando in Orange County in Florida. All you have to put in, you just put in a zip code and the year that you're going to be there, the time frame you're going to be there, and it will pull it up and tell you. So I did May, June, and July because it's May 5th today, and I wanted it to be accurate for the day that I was doing, you know, like if I took a contract today in Orlando, this is what it, you know, they should be reimbursing me. My travel stipend, my lodging should be $129 a day for every month that I'm there. Every day of every month that I'm there. So May, June, and July are all the same. You can see here, it is a seasonal place, so some of them are higher. Meals and incidentals, daily, $69 a day. There's first and last day of travel, which I've seen everything under the sun and zero for this one. It just depends on the agency. Totally depends on the agency. I don't include this in my calculations. You may if you want, but it's like the first and last day of travel, so I just don't. So with those numbers, we go down here. I will include that under the video. $129 a day for 7 days is $903 for the week for lodging. $69 a day for meals and incidentals for 7 days is $483. You add those together, that is your lodging, meals, and incidentals. This should be your total travel stipend. That will be the most they can give you, is $13.86. Now I will tell you that a lot of them will not give you the total, like the max amount. And the reason they give is that it will flag the IRS if they do that all the time. So they, as a general rule, will only give you like 70% of this. I don't calculate this based off of 70% because for me, that's the max. This is what their website says I should get for that area, number one. So number one, that's how much I should get. So whether or not you put it here or you put it up in my pay for my hourly, I don't really care. But it's going in the total. Okay? See where that's at? All right. So far we have the full-time cost of an employee for the company is $21.60 for 36 hours. We have lodging, meals, and incidentals at $13.86. So add those together, you get $35.46 for a 36-hour contract. Your agency is going to charge 10 to 15%. We're going to use the higher for the sake of argument. So if they want to keep 15% for their fees, we calculate 15%. That's $532. I am not subtracting that. Don't get confused. I'm not subtracting that because it is a fee that the hospital is required to pay for the convenience of getting a trained professional who can be there quickly and with minimal orientation and fill in the gaps in their staffing. So we're going to add that fee to this. That way, when the recruiting company takes their money out, we don't feel it. Okay? They get theirs, we still get ours. So that's going to come out to $4,078 a week for 36 hours. A blended rate, mind you, I'm speaking all in gross here. Everyone's taxes are how you make them, okay? That depends on every different situation. Single, married, with children, how many children, all of that. So your taxes are your business. So this is all based on gross. So a blended rate is when you take your stipends, all of them, and you add it to your hourly total, all of that, and then you divide, this is our grand total here, and you divide it by the hours that you will be required to work each week. And that will give you your blended rate. Now, you're contracted for 36. You promised them you would be there 36. You agreed to 48 on the next week. Next week they said, oh, we could use you. Would you like some overtime? And you're like, oh yeah, let me have some overtime. There will be a point at which this will go down because you've taken so much overtime. That is because your stipends do not go up because you take overtime. So your stipends is a static number. It's set. You get the same amount. 7 days is equal to. You do overtime, it changes things. Last argument that I want to bash so bad. And I have numbers to support this too. I'm just not going to put them here for the sake of how long this video is already. But an oversaturated workforce does not exist, period. It doesn't exist in travel. It doesn't exist in full-time. It's not an issue in travel unless you have a tiny little radius that you want to work in. And some people do, and they're perfectly okay with that. They work part-time at some little hospital or PRN, or, you know, they just work when they want to. There are people in this world that can afford to do that, and hey, have at it. But if you want the best deals, you want to make sure that you're getting the good money, and you're going to have to broaden where you'll go. The United States healthcare system as a whole is so short on respiratory therapists and RNs. I mean, you can look these numbers up yourself. See how many therapists there are. I have these numbers, I just don't have them here, but you see how many there are in the US. Look up how many hospitals there are in the US. Divide it, and you will see there is, you're not ever going to be without work. There might be work that you're not willing to go do. That's a different story. Places that you're not willing to go to, that's a different story. But do not say it's oversaturated. It is not. There is no oversaturation possible. If we all stopped working full-time and we all went and did our own business and became full-time travelers, still wouldn't be oversaturated. Nope. All the popular destinations are always going to be saturated because everybody wants to go there. Of course, yes, of course that's an issue. That's an issue with housing. I mean, come on. All right, so the biggest thing here is know your worth. Do the math. I guarantee you someone in corporate somewhere, they are all those businesses, they have people doing their math, telling them what to do, what not to do. So with that, I say Have an awesome day. Love your recruiters, but be firm and stand your ground and know your worth, because you are worth it. Thanks for listening.